Nathan Cole's hands were shaking the day his daughter's school called about unpaid lunch fees. He'd checked his account that morning. There should have been enough. There always should have been enough. But the numbers never added up, no matter how many doubles he pulled or how carefully he budgeted. What he didn't know was that someone had been skimming from every paycheck for months. And the woman watching him from aisle 7, the one pretending to compare cereal brands, was about to blow his entire world wide open. If you want to see how far this story reaches, hit that like button and drop your city in the comments below. Nathan Cole had learned a long time ago that survival meant keeping your head down and your mouth shut. At 30 years old, he'd perfected the art of being invisible. The kind of employee managers loved because he never complained, never called in sick, and never asked questions that made anyone uncomfortable. He scanned items with mechanical precision, offered the corporate-mandated smile, and went home to his daughter every night with just enough energy left to microwave dinner and help with homework. The fluorescent lights of Morrison's Family Market hummed their usual monotonous tune. Tuesday afternoon, 2:47 p.m. The dead zone between lunch rush and after-school chaos. Nathan's register was the only one open, and even that felt excessive. 3 customers in the entire store. He watched a middle-aged woman in workout clothes she clearly hadn't worked out and browse the organic section, phone pressed to her ear, voice carrying across the produce aisle about her neighbor's landscaping choices. An elderly man shuffled through the bakery, tapping each loaf of bread like he was searching for a secret message. And then there was the young woman in aisle 7. She'd been there for 15 minutes, holding the same box of granola. Nathan noticed because noticing was part of the job. Shoplifters had patterns. So did people having breakdowns in the cereal aisle. This woman didn't fit either category. She was dressed too well. Expensive jeans that actually fit, a leather jacket that hadn't come from a discount rack, boots that probably cost more than his rent. Her dark hair was pulled back in a ponytail that somehow looked both casual and deliberate. She wasn't reading the nutrition label. She was watching. Nathan's register beeped as he scanned a can of soup for the elderly man who'd finally made his selection. That'll be $2.49. The man counted out exact change from a coin purse, his hands trembling slightly. Nathan waited patiently, not rushing him, not sighing like some of the younger cashiers did. When you'd been poor yourself, you recognized the small dignities people clung to. Have a good day, sir. The man nodded, shuffling toward the exit with his single can of soup in a plastic bag. The store fell quiet again. Nathan's phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, keeping it below the counter where the security cameras couldn't see. A text from Emma's school. Mr. Cole, this is the 3rd notice regarding Emma's lunch account. The balance is now minus $47.50. Please remit payment or she will need to bring lunch from home. His jaw tightened. He'd paid that account 2 weeks ago. $50, which had left him short on gas money. But Emma's lunch was non-negotiable. He'd checked his bank app afterward, watched the transaction clear. Where the hell had the money gone? He pulled up his banking app, scrolling back through recent transactions. The payment was there. $50 to Lincoln Elementary School cafeteria services, processed on the 3rd. He took a screenshot, thumbs moving quickly across the cracked screen of his phone, then composed a reply to the school. Payment was made on April 3rd. See attached. Please check your records. Professional, polite. Even though what he wanted to type was something far less diplomatic. Excuse me? Nathan looked up. The woman from aisle 7 stood at his register, the granola box finally in her hand along with a bottle of water and a bag of trail mix. Up close, she was younger than he'd thought, maybe late 20s, dark eyes that didn't quite match her casual smile. Sorry, just these, please. Her voice was smooth, educated, the kind of voice that belonged in boardrooms, not Morrison's Family Market on a Tuesday afternoon. Nathan scanned her items. $6.78. She handed him a credit card, black metal. Nathan had seen plenty of those, usually attached to people who treated cashiers like furniture. How long have you worked here? She asked while the card reader processed. Small talk. Nathan hated small talk. About 4 years. You like it? He glanced up. Her expression was genuinely curious, which was somehow worse than condescension. It's a job. That's not really an answer. The card reader beeped. Approved. Nathan handed it back. Do I like standing on concrete for 8 hours scanning soup cans and getting yelled at because we're out of the specific brand of yogurt someone saw in a commercial? Not particularly, but it pays the bills. Does it? Nathan's hand froze halfway to the receipt printer. What? Pay the bills. Does it actually? For a second he thought about telling her to mind her own business. But there was something in her eyes, not pity, which he would have hated, but something sharper. Recognition, maybe. Most months, he said finally. She nodded slowly, taking her receipt. I'm Victoria, by the way. Nathan? Well, Nathan, I hope the rest of your shift is quiet. She walked out, trail mix in hand, leaving Nathan with the distinct feeling that their conversation had meant something he didn't quite understand. The afternoon crawled forward. Nathan restocked the candy display during a dead stretch, went on his 15-minute break, spent in his car, eating a protein bar that tasted like cardboard, and returned to find Adrian Voss standing at his register. Adrian Voss, store manager. 42 years old, thinning hair he combed over with too much product, and a smile that never touched his eyes. He wore the company polo like it was a power suit, clipboard always in hand, authority radiating from every pore. Nathan, good afternoon. Adrian. Nathan kept his voice neutral. I wanted to touch base about the schedule. I'm going to need you to come in Saturday. We've got inventory. Nathan's stomach dropped. I requested Saturday off 2 months ago. My daughter has a dance recital. Adrian's smile didn't waver. I understand that, but we're short-staffed. Melissa called in sick again, 3rd time this month. I really need team players right now. I haven't missed a shift in 8 months. And that's appreciated, truly. But this is non-negotiable. Adrian's voice took on that edge, the one that said the conversation was over, that questioning further would be noted, filed away, used against him later. Nathan felt the old familiar weight settle on his chest, the weight of needing this job more than this job needed him. What time? 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. I'll put you down. Adrian made a note on his clipboard. Oh, and Nathan, let's try to move a little faster on the registers. Customer flow is important. Customer flow. There'd been 6 customers all afternoon. Adrian walked away, leaving Nathan staring at the empty conveyor belt, thinking about Emma's face when he'd have to tell her he'd miss her recital. Again. That evening, Nathan sat at their tiny kitchen table while Emma practiced her dance routine in the living room. Their apartment was small, 1 bedroom, which Emma had, while Nathan slept on a pull-out couch. But it was clean and safe. That was what mattered. Emma was 7, all long limbs and energy she hadn't figured out how to control yet. She had her mother's eyes, bright, curious, trusting. Her mother, who'd left when Emma was 2, deciding that motherhood wasn't the adventure she'd signed up for. The last Nathan had heard, she was in Arizona with a new boyfriend and a job selling essential oils. Good riddance. Dad, watch this part. Emma spun, arms extended, nearly taking out a lamp. Careful, sweetheart. She froze mid-spin, face falling. Was it bad? No, it was great, just maybe a little less spin near the furniture. She grinned, immediately trying again with slightly more control. Nathan's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, expecting another text from the school. Instead, it was his bank app notification. Your checking account balance is $127.43. He frowned. That was wrong. He'd had almost $400 after his last paycheck. He opened the app, scrolling through transactions. Rent? $850. Groceries? $73.22. Gas? $45. Emma's lunch account? $50. Car insurance? $110. The math didn't add up. He went back further, pulling up his last pay stub. 40 hours at $14.50 per hour should have been $580 before taxes. After taxes, around $460. But his direct deposit showed $387. Nathan stared at the number, doing the calculation 3 more times. Same result. He was short almost $80. He opened his previous pay stub. Same problem, and the one before that. Dad, are you watching? Yeah, baby, you're doing great. But his mind was racing. $80 every 2 weeks. That was $160 a month. Nearly $2,000 a year. Gone. He thought about the text from Emma's school. The way his account always seemed just slightly wrong. The months where he'd had to choose between fixing the car and buying Emma new shoes because there simply wasn't enough, even though there should have been. Someone was stealing from him. Wednesday morning, Nathan arrived 30 minutes early. The store was still closed, just the opening crew moving through their routines. He found Denise in the break room, pouring coffee from the ancient pot that made everything taste like burnt cardboard. Denise was 56, had worked at Morrison's for 12 years, and knew where every body was buried. If anyone would know about payroll issues, it was her. "You're here early," she said, not looking up from her coffee. "Can I ask you something?" "Depends on the question." "Have you ever noticed anything weird with your paychecks?" Denise's hand stilled. She set down the coffee pot very carefully, then turned to face him. "Weird how?" "Like missing money, hours that don't add up." She studied him for a long moment. Then she reached into her purse, pulled out a worn envelope, and handed it to him. Inside were pay stubs, 6 months' worth, each one covered in pencil marks and calculations. "I've been tracking it for 8 months, she said quietly. "About $60 per check, sometimes more." Nathan's hands went cold. "Have you reported it?" "To who?" "Adrian processes the payroll. HR is 2 states away and doesn't return calls. Corporate number goes to a voicemail that's always full." She took the envelope back. "I need this job, Nathan. I've got 2 years until I can collect Social Security. I can't afford to make waves. So we just let them steal from us?" "You got a better idea, you let me know." She picked up her coffee, heading for the door. "And Nathan, be careful who you talk to about this. Adrian's got eyes everywhere." She left him standing in the break room, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, reality settling like concrete in his stomach. They weren't just being underpaid, they were being systematically robbed. Victoria Hale sat in her car across the street from Morrison's Family Market, laptop open on her passenger seat, reviewing the store's quarterly reports for the 3rd time. On paper, everything looked perfect. Sales were steady, labor costs were optimized, profit margins healthy. Employee retention was even above average for the district, 82%, which suggested satisfied workers and good management. But Victoria hadn't built a $50 million retail chain by trusting paper. She'd started visiting stores unannounced 6 months ago after noticing a pattern in the data that didn't quite sit right. Stores that should have been struggling were reporting perfect numbers. Stores that should have been thriving had quiet problems. And everywhere she went, she found the same thing. Employees who smiled the corporate smile but had dead eyes. Morrison's Family Market was store number 47 on her list. Mid-size location, suburban area, decent foot traffic. The store manager, Adrian Voss, had been flagged in her analysis. Not for anything obvious, just small inconsistencies. Supply orders that didn't match sales data. Labor schedules that looked optimized but felt wrong. Yesterday, she'd watched him. Watched how he moved through the store like he owned it. Watched how employees straightened when he approached. That subtle flinch of people who'd learned to be afraid. And she'd watched Nathan. The cashier had caught her attention immediately, and not for the reasons she usually noticed employees. He wasn't slacking. He wasn't stealing. He was just tired. The kind of tired that came from years, not days. When she'd asked if the job paid the bills, she'd seen the answer in his eyes before he spoke. Victoria closed her laptop. She'd seen enough in this store to know something was very wrong. Now she just needed proof. She got out of her car, pulled on the same leather jacket from yesterday, and walked across the street. Time to dig deeper. Nathan was restocking the refrigerated section when he noticed her again. Victoria. Same expensive clothes, different items in her basket. This time she was in the frozen aisle, apparently very interested in pizza varieties. He almost didn't approach, almost kept his head down and kept working. But something about the way she'd asked those questions yesterday, "Does it pay the bills? Does it actually?" had stuck with him. "You're back," he said, stopping his cart beside her. She looked up, smiled. "The trail mix was good." "Right. Actually, I'm looking for someone." "Who?" "You." Nathan blinked. "Me?" Victoria set down the frozen pizza she'd been holding. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Are you being paid correctly?" Every instinct Nathan had developed over 4 years of keeping his head down screamed at him to lie. To smile, say everything was fine, and walk away. But he thought about Emma's lunch account, about Denise's envelope full of marked-up pay stubs, about the recital he was going to miss because Adrian Voss needed team players. "No," he said quietly. "I'm not." Victoria nodded, like she'd expected that answer. "How much are they shorting you?" "About $80 per paycheck. Maybe more. I'm not the only one." "I know." Nathan's eyes narrowed. "Who are you, really?" Victoria reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out a business card. Simple, expensive cardstock. Embossed lettering. Victoria Hale, CEO. Hale Enterprises. Nathan's blood went cold. Hale Enterprises. The parent company that owned Morrison's Family Market, that owned all 47 locations across 3 states. "You're the owner." "I am." She pocketed the card. "And someone in my company is stealing from my employees. I need to find out who and how." "It's Adrian, the store manager." "I suspected, but suspicion isn't proof." Victoria's eyes were sharp now, all traces of casual shopper gone. "I need access to the real payroll records, the ones he's manipulating, and I need someone on the inside who knows the patterns." "Why would I help you?" The words came out harder than Nathan intended. "You own this place. You're responsible for this." "You're right." Victoria didn't flinch. "Which is why I'm here to fix it, but I can't do it alone." Nathan thought about Emma, about the recital he'd miss, about 4 years of getting ground down by a system designed to exploit him. "What do you need?" They met after closing that night in Nathan's car, parked 3 blocks from the store where security cameras couldn't reach. Victoria had a tablet, files already open, spreadsheets that made Nathan's head spin. "This is the official payroll report," she explained, turning the screen toward him. "According to this, you were paid $460 last period. 40 hours at $14.50 minus standard deductions." "I got $387. "Exactly." She swiped to another document. "But if I access the raw time clock data, it shows 40 hours logged. The money's being skimmed after the hours are recorded, but before direct deposit processes." "How?" "That's what I need to figure out. Adrian has access to the payroll system, but he shouldn't be able to modify individual deposits unless—" She trailed off, fingers flying across the tablet. "Unless he created a secondary account, a ghost account that intercepts the difference." Nathan watched her work, this woman who probably made more in a day than he made in a year, sitting in his beat-up Honda with the cracked dashboard and the check engine light that had been on for 6 months. "Why do you care?" he asked. Victoria looked up. "What?" "You're rich. You could just fire Adrian, install someone new, and never think about this place again. Why go through all this trouble?" She was quiet for a moment. "Because I grew up in a place like this. My mom worked 3 jobs, and people like Adrian stole from her every chance they got. She died at 52 from a stroke, working the night shift at a warehouse because the day shift didn't pay enough." Victoria's voice was steady, but Nathan heard the edge in it. "I built this company so that wouldn't happen to other people, and I'll be damned if I let someone use it to do exactly that." Nathan nodded slowly. "What do you need from me?" "Access to Adrian's office, even just 10 minutes. He keeps it locked." "Does he ever leave his keys anywhere?" Nathan thought about it. Break room. He takes his breaks same time every day, 2:30, hangs his keys on the hook by the coffee maker. Victoria smiled. "Perfect." Thursday afternoon, 2:28 p.m. Nathan watched the security monitor from his register as Adrian walked into the break room, right on schedule. 2 minutes later, Victoria entered through the back entrance, moving with the confidence of someone who belonged there. Nathan's heart hammered. If this went wrong, he'd be fired, probably blacklisted. Emma would lose her health insurance. But if it went right, he watched Victoria slip into Adrian's office, the door closing behind her. The seconds crawled. 3 minutes. 5. 8. A customer approached the register. Nathan scanned their items on autopilot, making change, barely registering their existence. On the monitor, Adrian poured his coffee, oblivious. 10 minutes. 11. Victoria emerged from the office, walked calmly through the back area, and disappeared from camera view. Nathan's phone buzzed. Got it. Meet me tonight. Adrian returned to his office 30 seconds later, keys back on his belt. No idea his entire scheme had just been photographed, documented, and handed to the one person with the power to destroy him. That night, Victoria spread the evidence across Nathan's kitchen table while Emma slept in the next room. Bank statements, payroll modifications, transfer records showing thousands of dollars redirected to an account under Adrian's wife's maiden name.
He's been doing this for 2 years, Victoria said, pointing to the earliest transaction. Across 8 employees, $60 to $80 per person per paycheck. She did the calculation on her phone. He's stolen approximately $96,000. Nathan stared at the number. $96,000. Money that could have fixed his car, paid Emma's medical bills, kept him from choosing between electricity and groceries. What happens now? He asked.
Now I bring in corporate legal. We audit the entire system, verify every transaction, and build a case. Victoria started gathering the documents. Adrian will be terminated, possibly arrested depending on what the lawyers recommend, and every employee who was affected will be compensated. Full back pay plus damages. How long will that take? 2 weeks. Maybe 3. Nathan ran a hand through his hair. I can't afford to wait 3 weeks. Emma's school, I'll handle it. Victoria pulled out her phone, typed quickly. There, I just authorized an emergency advance for all affected employees. You should see $5,000 in your account by tomorrow morning. Nathan's throat tightened. Why would you do that? Because it's your money. He stole it. I'm just returning it. She stood, collecting her tablet. And Nathan, after this is over, I'm going to need someone to help me rebuild the management structure here. Someone who understands what it's like on the other side of that register. Interested? He looked at her. This woman who'd walked into his store 3 days ago and turned his entire world sideways. Yeah, he said. I'm interested. Friday morning, Adrian Voss arrived at Morrison's Family Market to find his office door open and Victoria Hale sitting at his desk, corporate legal flanking her on both sides. Mr. Voss, Victoria said, voice cold as winter. We need to discuss some irregularities in your payroll processing. Nathan watched from the security monitor in the back room, Denise standing beside him, both of them silent as Adrian's face went from confused to pale to absolutely bloodless. I don't know what you're talking about, Adrian said, but his voice was already shaking. Victoria slid a folder across the desk. These are records from your secondary account, the one you've been using to steal from your employees for 2 years. Adrian opened the folder, closed it, sat down heavily. We can do this the easy way or the hard way, Victoria continued. Easy way. You resign immediately, return every cent you stole, and we don't press criminal charges. Hard way. We prosecute to the fullest extent. You lose everything, and you spend the next 5 years in prison for embezzlement and wage theft. The room was silent. I'll resign, Adrian whispered. Good choice. Victoria stood. You have 1 hour to clear out your desk. Security will escort you from the building. Nathan watched Adrian walk past the security monitor 30 minutes later, carrying a small box, shoulders slumped, the man who'd terrorized them for years reduced to nothing in a single morning. Denise squeezed Nathan's shoulder. You did that. We did that, Nathan corrected. She smiled, the first real smile he'd seen from her in months. The money appeared in Nathan's account Saturday morning, $5,200. Back pay, Victoria's email explained, for every cent Adrian had stolen, plus interest. Nathan sat in his car in the dance studio parking lot, staring at the number on his phone screen. Emma was inside, getting ready for her recital, unaware that her father could finally breathe for the first time in 4 years. He thought about calling his landlord, paying ahead on rent. Thought about fixing the car, replacing the tires that were 2 years past safe. Thought about taking Emma somewhere, anywhere, just because they could. But mostly he thought about Monday morning, when he'd walk into Morrison's Family Market and start learning how to be the kind of manager who'd never let this happen to anyone else. His phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. Enjoy the recital. You earned it. Nathan smiled, pocketed his phone, and walked into the studio to watch his daughter dance. The Monday after Emma's recital, Nathan walked into Morrison's Family Market and immediately felt the difference. It wasn't physical. The fluorescent lights still hummed. The linoleum still had that scuff mark near aisle 3, the same outdated pop music played through the speakers. But something fundamental had shifted. Adrian's office stood empty, the door propped open. Through the glass, Nathan could see bare walls where motivational posters about team synergy had hung. The desk was cleared except for a company laptop, waiting for whoever came next. Denise caught him staring. Feels weird, doesn't it? Yeah. Nathan set his backpack in his locker, pulling on his name tag. Any word on who's taking over? Corporate's sending someone temporary until they figure it out. Should be here this afternoon. She handed him a coffee. Actual good coffee, not the break room sludge. Thought you could use this. Nathan took it, surprised. Thanks. Thank you, she said quietly, for having the guts to do what the rest of us couldn't. Before he could respond, she walked away, leaving him with coffee. He hadn't paid for, and gratitude he didn't quite know how to accept. His shift started the way all shifts started, checking the registers, counting the cash drawers, running through the opening procedures he could do in his sleep. But every few minutes, employees would catch his eye. A nod from Marcus in produce, a small smile from Jennifer at the deli counter. Even old Tom from receiving, who never smiled at anyone, gave him a thumbs up through the stockroom window. They knew. All of them knew. Nathan had expected anger, maybe, or resentment that he hadn't acted sooner. Instead, he got something more complicated. Hope. Around 11, a sleek black sedan pulled into the parking lot. Nathan watched through the window as Victoria stepped out, dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than his car. She wasn't alone. A man in his 50s followed her, carrying a briefcase, and behind him came two women with tablets and the efficient air of people who got paid to solve problems. Nathan's stomach tightened. This was really happening. Victoria walked through the store like she owned it, which, technically, she did, but not with Adrian's performative authority. She moved with purpose, scanning everything, taking mental notes. When her eyes found Nathan at register 3, she gave him the smallest nod. The man with the briefcase headed straight for Adrian's office. The two women split up, one toward the stockroom, one toward the employee break room. Within minutes, they'd transformed the quiet Monday morning into something that felt like a controlled investigation. Attention Morrison's family market staff. Victoria's voice came through the intercom system. This is Victoria Hale, CEO of Hale Enterprises. I'll be conducting brief individual meetings with each employee today. Please continue your normal duties. You'll be called when it's your turn. Thank you. The store went quiet. Then the whispers started. Nathan kept working, scanning groceries for a woman who asked 3 times if her coupons would work, his mind only half present. What would Victoria ask him? What did she expect him to say? An hour later, Jennifer from the deli approached his register. Nathan, Ms. Hale wants to see you. His hands went cold. Now? Now. Nathan locked his register, following Jennifer through the store. Employees watched him go, their expressions ranging from curious to anxious. He felt like he was walking to the principal's office, except the principal controlled his entire livelihood. Victoria sat in Adrian's former office. No, her office now, behind the desk with a laptop open and a stack of files beside her. The man with the briefcase stood near the window, reviewing something on his phone. Nathan, come in. Close the door. Victoria gestured to the chair across from her. This is Robert Chen, my head of HR and legal compliance. Robert, this is Nathan Cole, the employee who first brought the payroll discrepancies to my attention. Robert extended his hand. Nathan shook it, noting the firm grip and assessing eyes. Mr. Cole, I want to start by saying thank you, Robert began. What you did took considerable courage. Many employees in your position would have stayed silent. I didn't do it for courage, Nathan said. I did it because I couldn't afford not to. Victoria's expression shifted slightly. Approval, maybe. That's exactly the kind of honesty we need right now. Nathan, I'm going to ask you some questions, and I need you to be completely frank. Nothing you say here will jeopardize your employment. Do you understand? Yeah. How long have you suspected the payroll issues? Nathan thought back. Consciously? About a week. But I've been struggling to make ends meet for over a year. I just thought I was bad with money. Did you notice anyone else experiencing similar problems? Denise. She's been tracking it for 8 months. Marcus mentioned something a few months back about his check being light, but I didn't put it together then. Robert made notes on his tablet. Did Mr. Voss ever threaten you, explicitly or implicitly? Not about the money. I didn't confront him about it, but he used the schedule as a weapon. If you push back on anything, suddenly you'd be working every weekend or stuck with the worst shifts. Can you provide specific examples? Nathan could. He spent the next 20 minutes detailing every instance he could remember. The time Marcus requested a Sunday off for his son's birthday and got scheduled for 3 consecutive closing shifts instead. The time Jennifer questioned why her hours got cut and found herself on the overnight inventory crew for a month. The small, petty cruelties that added up to a culture of fear. Victoria listened to all of it, her expression neutral, but her eyes sharp. What about the other employees, she asked. Do you think they'll be honest with us? Depends. Some of them have been here long enough that they don't trust management. Any management. You could promise them the world and they'd assume you're lying. Are you one of them? Nathan met her eyes. I don't know yet. Fair enough. Victoria closed her laptop. I'm going to be transparent with you, Nathan. The payroll theft was worse than I initially thought. Adrian didn't just skim from 8 employees. We found evidence of manipulation across 17 staff members over a 26-month period. Total theft is approximately $143,000. The number hit Nathan like a physical blow. Jesus. Every affected employee will receive full restitution plus 20% additional compensation for damages. That money will be in accounts by Friday. Victoria leaned back. But money doesn't fix culture. Adrian created an environment where people were too afraid to speak up. That's what I need to address next. How? By finding the right person to manage this store. Someone employees trust. Someone who understands what it's like to be on the other side of that register. She paused. I'd like that person to be you. Nathan had known this was coming. She'd mentioned it before, but hearing it officially still felt surreal. I'm a cashier. You're a 30-year-old single father who kept his head up through 4 years of systematic exploitation and still showed up every day. You noticed something was wrong, you took action, and you did it without grandstanding or making demands. Victoria's voice was firm. That tells me more about your management potential than any business degree. I don't have any management experience. Neither did I when I started my first company. I had $23,000 in credit card debt and a business plan written on napkins. She smiled slightly. You'll learn. I'll make sure of it. Robert cleared his throat. The position would come with management training, both online and in person. You'd shadow experienced managers at other locations, attend leadership workshops, and have direct access to corporate support. Starting salary would be $52,000 annually, plus benefits and quarterly performance bonuses. $52,000. Nathan currently made $30,000 when the paychecks weren't being skimmed. That kind of money meant stability, real stability. Emma could do dance classes without him calculating whether they could afford it. He could fix the car, save for emergencies. What if I'm terrible at it? The question came out before he could stop it. Then we'll figure it out together, Victoria said. But I don't think you will be. You care about this place and the people in it. That's the foundation. Everything else is teachable. Nathan looked at his hands, rough from years of work, then back at Victoria. Okay. Okay, you'll do it? Yeah, I'll do it. Victoria extended her hand across the desk. Nathan shook it, feeling the weight of what he'd just agreed to settle on his shoulders. Exciting and terrifying in equal measure. Good. Your official start date is 2 weeks from today. That gives you time to complete the initial training modules and lets me finish the full audit. Victoria stood. In the meantime, I need you back on the floor, business as usual. Can you do that? Sure. Nathan left the office, mind spinning. The break room was packed when he walked past, employees on lunch, talking in low voices. The conversation stopped when they saw him. Well? Denise asked. Well, what? Did she fire you for making her look bad? No, she offered me Adrian's job. The room went silent. Then Marcus started laughing. Holy shit! You're serious. I'm serious. You gonna take it? This from Tom, who'd appeared in the doorway with a sandwich. I already did. Denise studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Good. Don't screw it up. That's the plan. The rest of his shift passed in a blur.
Customers came and went, oblivious to the fact that the cashier scanning their milk and eggs had just been handed the keys to the kingdom. Nathan felt disconnected from his own body, going through motions while his brain tried to process the magnitude of what had changed. Around 3, his phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Victoria. I'm having dinner with my district managers tonight at Marcello's, 7 p.m. You should join us. Get a feel for the people you'll be working with." Nathan stared at the message. Marcello's was the expensive Italian place downtown, the one with valet parking and entrees that cost more than his grocery budget. "I don't have anything to wear to a place like that." The response came quickly. "You have a clean shirt? That's all you need. See you at 7. Nathan looked down at his Morrison's polo, stained with coffee from this morning, and wondered what the hell he'd gotten himself into. At 6:30, Nathan stood in his apartment bedroom, Emma's bedroom, technically, staring at his limited wardrobe options. He owned 2 button-down shirts. One was from Emma's mother's funeral, navy blue and 2 sizes too big because he'd lost weight from stress. The other was pale blue, bought for a job interview 3 years ago that hadn't panned out. He went with the pale blue. Emma sat on her bed, watching him struggle with the collar. "Why are you so dressed up?" "I have a work dinner." "You hate work dinners." "You said they're just managers pretending to like each other." Nathan paused. When had he said that? Probably after one of Adrian's mandatory team-building lunches, where everyone smiled too much and said nothing real. "This one's different," he said, finally getting the collar to sit right. "My boss wants me to meet some people." "Are you in trouble?" "No, sweetheart. The opposite, actually." He knelt down to her level. "Remember how I told you I was getting a new job? This dinner is part of that." Emma's eyes went wide. "Are you going to be rich?" "No, but things are going to be a little easier. I promise." She threw her arms around his neck, squeezing tight. Nathan held her, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo, grounding himself. This was why he'd taken the risk, why he'd keep taking risks. For her. Mrs. Chen from next door arrived at 6:45 to watch Emma. Nathan gave her the emergency numbers, the bedtime routine, and $20 he could now afford to part with. "Big night?" Mrs. Chen asked, noting his outfit. "Something like that." The drive downtown took 30 minutes. Nathan found Marcello's easily. It was the building with the marble columns and the doorman. He parked 3 blocks away because valet parking felt obscene, then walked back, hands shoved in his pockets, trying not to feel like an imposter. The restaurant was exactly what he'd expected. White tablecloths, dim lighting, waiters in vests moving between tables like choreographed dancers. A hostess greeted him with a smile that dimmed slightly when she registered his off-the-rack shirt and discount shoes. "Reservation?" "I'm meeting Victoria Hale's party." The smile returned, bright and professional. "Of course. Right this way." She led him through the dining room to a private area in the back, where a large table seated 8 people. Victoria sat at the head, deep in conversation with a woman in her 40s wearing a burgundy blazer. Others filled the remaining seats, all well-dressed, all comfortable in this space in a way Nathan definitely was not. Victoria looked up as he approached. "Nathan, you made it. Everyone, this is Nathan Cole, the new manager of our Morrison's Family Market location." 8 pairs of eyes turned toward him. Nathan forced himself to meet them, extending his hand to the nearest person. A man in his 30s with wire-rimmed glasses and a firm handshake. "David Park. I run the Riverside location. Heard you had some excitement at your store." "That's one word for it," Nathan said. Victoria gestured to the empty seat beside her. Nathan sat, acutely aware of the wine glasses and multiple forks flanking his plate. He'd watched enough TV to know the basics, work from the outside in, but the whole setup felt designed to make people like him uncomfortable. "Nathan just accepted the position today," Victoria explained to the table. "He doesn't have formal management experience, but he has something more valuable: perspective. He's been on the floor for 4 years. He knows how the store actually functions, not just how the reports say it functions." The woman in the burgundy blazer, her name tag read Claire Hutton, studied Nathan with open curiosity. 4 years as a cashier and you're jumping straight to store manager. That's quite a leap." "It is," Nathan agreed. He could feel the skepticism in her voice, the unspoken question. "I'm not going to pretend I know everything. I don't."
But I know what it's like to choose between fixing your car and buying groceries. I know what it's like when your manager uses the schedule to punish you. And I know what it's like to be stolen from and feel like there's nothing you can do about it. He met Claire's eyes. If that makes me qualified, great. If it doesn't, I'll figure out the rest. Claire's expression shifted. Not quite approval, but something close. Fair answer. A waiter appeared, distributing menus that had no prices listed. Nathan scanned the options, trying not to react to descriptions like butter-poached lobster with truffle reduction and dry-aged ribeye with foie gras butter. Victoria leaned toward him. Order whatever you want. Company's buying. I don't even know what half this stuff is. Then pick something you recognize and we'll work from there. Nathan ended up ordering chicken parmesan, the most normal-sounding thing on the menu, and water instead of wine. Around him, the other managers ordered effortlessly. Wines by vineyard name, cuts of meat with specific preparations. They belonged here. He didn't. Not yet. The conversation flowed around the table as drinks arrived. The managers discussed sales targets, inventory challenges, staffing issues. Nathan listened, absorbing information, trying to understand the rhythms of how they talked to each other. It was different from how Adrian had managed. Less performative, more practical. How bad was the theft at your location? This from David, the Riverside manager. Nathan glanced at Victoria, who nodded permission. 17 employees over 2 years. About 143,000 total. Someone whistled low. Claire shook her head. How did it go undetected that long? Because the people being stolen from couldn't afford to lose their jobs by complaining, Nathan said. And the people who could have noticed didn't care enough to look. The table went quiet. Nathan realized he'd said something too honest, too raw for polite dinner conversation. Then Claire raised her glass. To actually looking. The others echoed the toast. Nathan lifted his water glass, feeling something shift. Maybe he didn't belong here yet, but maybe that wasn't the point. Maybe the point was bringing a different perspective to a table that needed it. Dinner arrived, and with it, the conversation lightened. David told a story about a customer who'd tried to return a rotisserie chicken that was just bones. Claire described the time her entire refrigeration system failed during a summer heat wave. The tension Nathan had felt walking in slowly dissolved into something closer to camaraderie. Partway through the meal, Victoria's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, frowned, then excused herself from the table. Nathan watched her walk to the restaurant's entrance, phone pressed to her ear, her expression serious. Don't worry, Claire said, noticing his concern. She does that? Always working. Does she ever stop? Not that I've seen. Built the company from nothing in 12 years. She's relentless. Nathan thought about Victoria sitting in his beat-up Honda, explaining how her mother died working night shifts. Relentless made sense. Victoria returned 15 minutes later, her expression carefully neutral, but her jaw tight. She sat down, took a sip of wine, then addressed the table. I just got off the phone with our district oversight director. We've identified irregularities at 3 more locations. The mood shifted immediately. David set down his fork. 3? Which ones? Parkside, Oakmont, and Hillcrest. Victoria's voice was flat, controlled. Same pattern as Morrison's. Payroll manipulation, skimming from employees, different managers, same system. How's that possible? Claire asked. Those locations are in different districts, different regional oversight. That's what we're going to find out. Victoria looked around the table. As of tomorrow, every single store in the company gets a full forensic audit. Payroll, inventory, expense reports, everything. If there are more managers doing this, I want them found and removed. Nathan felt his stomach drop. This wasn't just about Adrian anymore. This was systemic. What do you need from us? David asked. Cooperation. Transparency. If you see anything that doesn't look right, you report it immediately. No protecting people, no benefit of the doubt. We fix this now, or it buries us. Victoria's eyes were hard. I won't have my company used to exploit people. Period. The dinner wound down shortly after, the earlier lightness replaced by grim determination. Managers exchanged contact information, promising to stay in communication. Nathan shook hands, collected business cards, and tried to remember names he'd probably forget by morning. Victoria walked him out to the parking lot. The night air was cool, carrying the scent of rain. Hell of a first dinner, Nathan said. Welcome to management. It's not always this dramatic. She paused. That's a lie. It's frequently this dramatic. 3 more stores, that's bad. It's worse than bad. It means we have a cultural problem, not just a few bad actors. Victoria turned to face him. Which is why I need people like you in leadership. People who remember what it's like to be on the receiving end of this garbage. I'm one person. So was I once. Then I hired people who gave a damn. Then they hired people who gave a damn. It compounds. She handed him a folder he hadn't noticed she was carrying. This is your training schedule for the next 2 weeks. It's aggressive. You'll hate parts of it, but it'll prepare you. Nathan took the folder heavy with papers. Thank you for all of this. Don't thank me yet. You haven't experienced your first angry customer complaint or failed health inspection. Victoria smiled slightly. But you will. And you'll handle it, because you're tougher than you think. She walked to her car, a Tesla, sleek and black, and drove away, leaving Nathan standing in the parking lot with a folder full of his future and the weight of 17 employees' stolen wages on his conscience. The drive home was quiet. Nathan's mind spun with everything he'd learned, everyone he'd met, the magnitude of what he'd agreed to. When he pulled into his apartment complex at 9:30, Emma was already asleep, and Mrs. Chen was watching a game show on low volume. How was it? She asked, gathering her things. Different, Nathan said honestly. Good different? He thought about it. About Victoria's determination, Claire's skepticism turned respect, the revelation that the problem was bigger than one store. Yeah, good different. After Mrs. Chen left, Nathan checked on Emma, still sleeping, her stuffed rabbit clutched tight, then collapsed on his pull-out couch. He opened the training folder, scanning the contents. Employee management protocols, conflict resolution strategies, inventory systems, financial reporting requirements, 12 modules, each estimated at 3 to 4 hours. Nathan did the math. 50 hours of training in 2 weeks, on top of his regular shifts, on top of being a single father. His phone buzzed. Another text from Victoria. I know it looks overwhelming. Take it one piece at a time. You've got this. Nathan stared at the message, then at the folder, then at the ceiling of his small apartment with the water stain in the corner he'd never gotten around to fixing. He'd spent 4 years surviving. Now he had to learn to lead. Nathan barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw training modules and employee rosters, and the faces of 17 people who'd been stolen from while he'd walked past Adrian's office every single day for 4 years without knowing. At 4 a.m., he gave up, made coffee, and started reading. By the time Emma woke up for school, he'd finished 2 modules and had a headache that felt like his skull was being compressed in a vice. Dad, you look terrible, Emma said, pouring herself cereal. Thanks, sweetheart. Really helps. I'm just saying. She crunched through a mouthful of flakes. Are you sick? No, just working on some stuff for the new job. Is it hard? Nathan looked at the laptop screen where a video about managing difficult personality types in retail environments was paused mid-sentence. Yeah, it's hard. You'll figure it out. You always do. The simple confidence in her voice made something in his chest ache. He walked over, kissed the top of her head. When did you get so smart? I was born this way. You just didn't notice. Nathan got her to school on time, then headed to Morrison's for what was supposed to be a normal shift but felt anything but. The parking lot was fuller than usual for a Tuesday morning. He recognized Robert Chen's rental car immediately, and beside it, 2 more sedans with rental plates. The audit team had arrived. Inside, the store hummed with nervous energy. Employees clustered in small groups, talking in hushed voices. Marcus spotted Nathan and made a beeline for him. Dude, there's like 6 people in suits going through everything. They pulled all the employee files, they're checking the registers. They even went through the trash. What's happening? Corporate audit. They're making sure what happened with Adrian didn't happen anywhere else. Is someone getting fired? I don't know, maybe. Probably only if they deserve it. Marcus looked unconvinced. Easy for you to say. You're the golden boy now. The words stung more than they should have. Nathan had worked alongside Marcus for 3 years. They'd covered each other's shifts, complained about Adrian's insane scheduling, split gas money when one of them was short. Now there was distance, a gap that hadn't existed last week. I didn't ask for this, Nathan said quietly. Yeah, well, you got it anyway. Marcus walked off toward the produce section. leaving Nathan standing alone by the registers. Denise appeared at his elbow. Don't take it personally. He's scared. Of what? Change. People get comfortable, even in bad situations. At least with Adrian, we knew what we were dealing with. Now? She gestured vaguely at the suits moving through the store. Nobody knows what's coming. Nathan wanted to tell her it would be okay, that things were getting better, not worse. But he didn't know that for sure. He was just as lost as everyone else. His shift started at 8. By 8:30, Robert Chen called him into the office. We need to talk about something, Robert said, not bothering with pleasantries. A woman Nathan didn't recognize sat beside him, laptop open, expression professionally blank. Nathan's stomach dropped. Okay, this is Sarah Kim from our forensic accounting team. She's been reviewing the store's financial records. Robert nodded to Sarah. Sarah pulled up a spreadsheet. Mr. Cole, can you walk me through your typical opening procedures, specifically how you handle the cash drawers? Sure. We count the starting cash, verify it against the previous day's closing report, sign off, and distribute to the registers. Everything gets logged in the system. And who has access to the safe? Management. Adrian had the main code. The assistant managers had secondary access. Define assistant managers. Nathan thought about it. Technically, we don't have formal assistant managers anymore. Adrian promoted 2 people to shift leads last year, Jennifer and Craig, but he never actually gave them the pay raise or official title. They just got extra responsibilities. Sarah made a note. Did they have safe access? Yeah, Adrian gave them the code after he went on vacation last summer and realized nobody else could open the store. So Jennifer, Craig, and Adrian. Anyone else? Not that I know of. Sarah exchanged a look with Robert. We found discrepancies in the cash handling logs. Small amounts, $20, $30, missing from closing counts over the past 8 months. Always on nights when Craig closed. Nathan's brain stuttered. Craig's stealing. We don't know yet. It could be honest mistakes. But combined with the payroll issues, we have to investigate every irregularity. Robert leaned forward. Has Craig ever asked you to cover for him? Sign off on counts you didn't personally verify? No, Craig's solid. He's been here 6 years. As a kid in college, he's putting through school on his own. Nathan heard himself defending Craig and stopped. But I guess I didn't think Adrian was stealing either. Exactly, Sarah said. We're not accusing anyone yet. We're gathering facts. They dismissed him 15 minutes later with instructions not to discuss the conversation with anyone. Nathan went back to his register feeling like the floor had tilted. Craig. Quiet, dependable Craig, who brought donuts on Friday mornings and never complained even when Adrian scheduled him for every holiday. If Craig was stealing, what did that mean? That everyone was corruptible given the right circumstances? That Nathan himself might have done the same if he'd had access? The morning crawled by. At noon, Victoria arrived, flanked by 2 people Nathan vaguely recognized from the dinner, district managers from other regions. They swept through the store like a small tornado, observing, asking questions, taking notes. Employees tracked their movement with wary eyes. Victoria paused at Nathan's register. How are you holding up? Been better. I heard about Craig. For what it's worth, I hope it's just accounting errors. Do you actually believe that? Victoria's expression was carefully neutral. I believe in evidence, which we don't have yet. She glanced around, lowering her voice. This is going to get worse before it gets better. People are going to be angry, scared, defensive. Your job is to stay steady. I'm not anyone's manager yet. No, but they're watching you. What you do matters. She moved on, leaving Nathan with advice he didn't know how to follow. At 2:30, Sarah Kim emerged from the office and asked to speak with Craig. Nathan watched from across the store as Craig's face went from confused to pale. The conversation lasted 20 minutes. When Craig came out, he looked gutted. Jennifer caught Nathan in the stockroom an hour later. Did you know they were going after Craig? I didn't know they were going after anyone. They pulled his drawer logs, his closing reports, everything. Sarah practically accused him of theft to his face. Jennifer's voice shook with anger. This is bullshit, Nathan. Craig's been here forever. He'd never steal. You don't know that. Yes, I do, and so do you. But Nathan didn't. Not anymore. A week ago, he would have sworn Adrian was just an asshole, not a thief. Now he didn't trust his own judgment. The rest of the shift passed in tense silence. Employees moved through their tasks mechanically, avoiding eye contact with the audit team. When 6 o'clock finally arrived and Nathan clocked out, the relief was physical. He was halfway to his car when someone called his name. Craig stood by the dumpsters, smoking a cigarette. Nathan had never seen him smoke before. "Can we talk?" Craig asked. Craig chaktikub. Every instinct said no. Robert had told him not to discuss the investigation. Getting involved could compromise the audit, but Craig looked so defeated that Nathan found himself walking over. "What's up?" Craig took a long drag, exhaled smoke into the cooling evening air. "They think I'm stealing." "Are you?" "No." The word came fast, almost desperate. "I swear, Nathan, I've never taken a dime from this place." "Then where's the money going?" "I don't know. I just know it wasn't me." Craig flicked ash. "You believe me, right?" Nathan wanted to. Craig had always been decent to him, had covered shifts when Emma was sick, had helped Nathan learn the inventory system when he'd first started. But belief felt dangerous now. "I don't know what I believe anymore," Nathan said honestly. Craig's face crumpled. "Right, yeah, that's fair." He dropped the cigarette, crushed it under his heel. "For what it's worth, I'm glad you're getting Adrian's job. You'll be better at it than he ever was." He walked away before Nathan could respond, leaving him standing alone in the shadow of the dumpster, wondering if he'd just failed some kind of test. That night, Nathan worked through 3 more training modules while Emma did homework at the kitchen table. Around 8, his phone rang. Unknown number. "This is Nathan?" "Nathan, it's Claire Hutton. From dinner the other night. Do you have a minute?" Nathan muted the training video. "Sure, what's up?" "I wanted to give you a heads up. The audits at the other 3 stores turned up similar patterns to yours. Managers skimming payroll, manipulating cash counts, hiding inventory shrinkage. It's a mess." "How bad?" "Combined with your store, we're looking at close to $400,000 in theft across 4 locations over 3 years. Nathan felt sick. "That's insane." "It is, and it's about to get public. Victoria's holding a press conference tomorrow to address it. Corporate transparency, commitment to making things right, all that. But it means your store is going to be in the news." "Wonderful. Yeah, I wanted to warn you because reporters might show up. Don't talk to them. Refer everything to corporate communications. Don't defend, don't explain, just redirect." "Got it." Claire paused. "Also, between you and me, the Craig situation at your location is complicated. The money's definitely missing, but the pattern doesn't match intentional theft. Sarah thinks it might be system manipulation from someone with higher access." "Adrian." "That's the theory. Craig was closing, but someone with admin access could have altered the reports after he left, making it look like he pocketed the difference when it was actually going somewhere else." Relief flooded through Nathan. "So Craig didn't do it?" "Probably not, but we can't prove it yet. So for now, he's under suspicion, along with everyone else." After Claire hung up, Nathan sat in the dark living room, laptop casting blue light across his face, and tried to process everything. 4 stores, 4 managers, $400,000. And tomorrow, it would be everywhere. Emma appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. "Dad, why are you sitting in the dark?" "Just thinking, sweetheart." "About work?" "Yeah." She climbed onto the couch beside him, curling against his side. "Is it bad?" Nathan wrapped an arm around her. "It's complicated." "That's what you always say when it's bad, but you don't want to tell me. When did you become so observant?" "I've always been observant, you just didn't notice." She echoed her earlier comment, making him smile despite everything. They sat there in this quiet, and Nathan thought about all the other single parents working retail jobs right now. Parents who were being stolen from, ground down, exploited by people they trusted. Parents who couldn't afford to speak up because one missed paycheck meant eviction. Victoria was right. This was bigger than Adrian. It was systemic. And somehow, Nathan had become part of the solution. The press conference hit the news cycle at 10 a.m. Wednesday. Nathan watched it on his phone during his break, Victoria standing behind a podium with the Hale Enterprises logo, flanked by lawyers and PR people. "We recently discovered systematic wage theft and financial manipulation at multiple store locations," Victoria said, her voice clear and controlled. 4 managers have been terminated, and we are cooperating fully with law enforcement investigations. Every affected employee will receive full restitution plus additional compensation. Additionally, we are implementing new oversight protocols to ensure this never happens again. Questions erupted from reporters. Victoria fielded them with practiced ease, never defensive, always direct. Yes, the company took responsibility. Yes, there would be independent audits. No, they would not be releasing employee names or specific theft amounts. Nathan watched her command the room and felt something like admiration. She could have buried this, paid people quietly, moved on. Instead, she'd gone public, put her company's reputation on the line, and owned the failure. By noon, Morrison's Family Market was swarmed. Local news vans parked in the lot, reporters trying to interview employees as they came and went. Nathan followed Claire's advice, referring everyone to corporate communications, but it felt surreal watching people describe his workplace on camera like it was a crime scene, which, technically, it was. Inside, the atmosphere was toxic. Customers who'd seen the news whispered and stared. Employees snapped at each other over minor things. Marcus and Jennifer got into an argument over register assignments that escalated until Denise had to physically separate them. "This is a nightmare," Jennifer said during the afternoon lull, slumped against the customer service counter. Nathan couldn't disagree. "It'll pass. Will it? Or is this just what we are now? The store where everyone got robbed by their boss. We're the store that caught it and fixed it." Jennifer looked at him, skeptical. "You really believe that?" "I have to." Around 3, Nathan was restocking shelves when he noticed a woman in her 60s watching him from the end of the aisle. She approached slowly, clutching a shopping basket. "Excuse me, are you Nathan Cole?" Nathan's guard went up immediately. "Who's asking?" "I'm Ruth Palmer. My daughter works at the Parkside location. She was one of the people they stole from." Ruth's eyes were red like she'd been crying. "I just wanted to say thank you for speaking up. Jessica was too scared to say anything. She thought she'd lose her job." Nathan's throat tightened. "I'm sorry that happened to her." "Don't be sorry. Just keep doing what you're doing." Ruth squeezed his arm, then walked away, leaving Nathan standing alone with a box of cereal and tears he refused to let fall. That evening, Victoria called a mandatory meeting for all Morrison's employees. They gathered in the break room after closing, 23 people crammed into a space meant for 10. The air conditioning rattled. Someone had made weak coffee that nobody touched. Victoria stood at the front, still in her suit from the press conference, looking tired but determined. "I know today was difficult," she began. "I know this whole week has been difficult. You've been interviewed, investigated, watched, and scrutinized. Some of you are angry, some of you are scared. All of that is valid." The room was silent. What happened here was theft. Not just of money, but of trust, of dignity, of the basic promise that if you work hard, you'll be compensated fairly. Victoria's voice hardened. "I can't undo what was done, but I can make sure it never happens again, and I can make sure every single person in this room is made whole." "What about Craig?" This from Jennifer, her voice cutting across the room. "He's been under investigation for 3 days. When do we find out if he's guilty?" "Craig is not guilty," Victoria said firmly. The forensic team traced the missing cash to administrative alterations made after closing. Someone with manager-level access was manipulating the reports to create the appearance of theft. Craig was being set up. The room exploded. Relief, anger, questions all at once. Victoria raised her hand for quiet. "Craig will be fully cleared by tomorrow. He'll also receive compensation for the stress and false accusations." She looked directly at Craig, who'd been sitting in the corner looking like a ghost. "I'm sorry. We should have cleared you sooner." Craig just nodded, not trusting himself to speak. Victoria continued, "Moving forward, there will be changes. New payroll systems with multiple verification points, mandatory reporting protocols for any financial irregularities, anonymous hotlines for concerns, and new management." Her eyes found Nathan. "Nathan Cole will be taking over as store manager effective Monday. I know some of you have concerns about that. He's young, he's inexperienced, he's never managed before. But he has something more important than experience. He gives a damn about you, about this place, about doing things right." Nathan felt 23 pairs of eyes on him, some skeptical, some hopeful, some just tired. "If you have issues with Nathan's promotion, my office is always open," Victoria said. "But I'm asking you to give him a chance, help him learn, because we're rebuilding this place together, and that requires all of us." The meeting ended 10 minutes later. Employees filed out slowly, some stopping to shake Nathan's hand, others avoiding eye contact. Marcus was one of the last to leave. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, "for what I said before, about you being the golden boy." "It's fine. It's not. You didn't ask for this. You just did what was right." Marcus extended his hand. "For what it's worth, I think you'll be good at it." They shook, and Nathan felt some of the tension ease. When everyone else had left, Victoria turned to Nathan. "How are you holding up?" "Honestly, I feel like I'm drowning." "Good." "Good? If you felt confident right now, I'd be worried. Doubt means you understand the weight of what you're taking on." She picked up her briefcase. "You start Monday. Between now and then, finish the training modules, get some sleep, and spend time with your daughter. Because once you're in that office, everything changes." "I know." "Do you?" Victoria's eyes were serious. "People are going to resent you. They're going to test you. They're going to expect you to fail. And on bad days, you're going to want to walk away and go back to just scanning groceries and clocking out. What do I do on those days?" "Remember why you're doing this. Remember Ruth Palmer's daughter. Remember Denise's envelope full of pay stubs. Remember every person who got robbed and stayed silent because they needed the job too much to risk it." Victoria headed for the door, then paused. "And remember, you're not alone. You've got me. You've got Claire, David, Robert. We're all pulling for you." Nathan locked up the store after she left, walking through the empty aisles, seeing them differently now. This wasn't just a place he worked anymore. In 4 days, it would be his responsibility, his team, his success or failure. The weight of it was crushing and exhilarating in equal measure. He drove home through empty streets, the city quiet at this hour, and thought about the version of himself from 2 weeks ago, that Nathan had been surviving, nothing more. Head down, mouth shut, taking whatever scraps the world offered. This Nathan was different, scared, yes. Overwhelmed, absolutely. But no longer invisible. When he got home, Emma was still awake, sitting at the kitchen table with construction paper and markers. "What are you making?" "A card. For your first day." She held it up. Stick figures, one tall with Dad written above it, surrounded by smaller figures labeled Workers. Big letters across the top. "You got this." Nathan's eyes burned. "Thank you, sweetheart." "Are you nervous?" "Terrified." "That's okay. Being scared means you care." She returned to her coloring. "Mrs. Chen told me that. She said her husband was scared every day when he started his restaurant, but he did it anyway." "Mrs. Chen's husband owned a restaurant?" "For 30 years, before he died." Emma added more stick figures. "She says the scared people who try anyway are the bravest ones." Nathan pulled his daughter into a hug, holding tight, thinking about how much wisdom could exist in a 7-year-old who'd grown up watching her father struggle and somehow still believed in him. "I love you, Emma." "Love you too, Dad." The rest of the week blurred. Training modules, video conferences with HR, shadowing Claire at her store for a day, watching how she handled a customer complaint and a vendor dispute with equal efficiency. Dinner with David, who explained inventory management and showed Nathan the spreadsheets that kept his location profitable. Friday afternoon, the restitution payments hit. Nathan checked his account and saw the full amount, $5,200 for the stolen wages, plus another $1,000 in compensation for damages. $6,200 total. He transferred half to savings immediately. The other half he earmarked for practical things, new tires for the car, Emma's upcoming birthday, a professional wardrobe that didn't make him look like he was playing dress-up. That evening, he took Emma to dinner at a real restaurant, not fast food. They ordered appetizers and dessert, extravagances they'd never afforded before. Emma got chocolate cake and talked about her dance recital, about school, about her friend Maya's new puppy. Normal things, good things. Nathan watched his daughter laugh, sauce on her chin, happy and safe, and thought about all the nights he'd counted pennies to afford boxed mac and cheese. Those nights weren't over. $6,200 didn't solve everything. But the crushing pressure had eased. He could breathe. When they got home, Emma went straight to bed, exhausted from excitement and sugar. Nathan stayed up, reviewing the employee roster for Monday, memorizing names and schedules, and the small details Victoria had stressed mattered. His phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. "Tomorrow's your last day as a cashier. Make it count. Nathan stared at the message, then looked around his small apartment. The pull-out couch he slept on, the water stain on the ceiling, the second-hand furniture and the careful budgets and the life he'd built from scraps. Monday, it all changed. He was ready. Saturday morning arrived cold and gray, the kind of weather that matched Nathan's nerves perfectly. His last shift as a cashier. After today, he'd walk through those doors as someone completely different, someone with actual authority, actual responsibility, actual power to screw things up spectacularly. Emma made him breakfast, or her version of it. Burnt toast and scrambled eggs that were somehow both runny and overcooked. Nathan ate every bite. "You're going to be great," she said, watching him with those serious eyes that made her seem older than 7. "How do you know?" "Because you're my dad, and my dad doesn't give up on things." Nathan kissed the top of her head, grabbed his keys, and drove to Morrison's with his stomach in knots. The parking lot was busier than usual for a Saturday morning. Nathan recognized most of the cars, regular weekend staff, early shoppers, the bread delivery truck that always arrived at 7:30. Normal. Everything looked completely normal. Inside, Denise was already at customer service processing a return. She glanced up when Nathan walked past, gave him a small nod. Craig was stocking dairy, moving with the quiet efficiency of someone grateful to still have a job. Marcus rolled a pallet of canned goods toward aisle 5, headphones in, focused on his work. Nathan clocked in, tied on his apron, and took his position at register 3 for the last time. The first customer was Mrs. Patterson, an elderly woman who came in every Saturday to buy the exact same things: one small container of cottage cheese, a loaf of wheat bread, 3 bananas, and a single-serving carton of orange juice. She paid in exact change counted from a vinyl coin purse, always taking at least 5 minutes. "Good morning, Mrs. Patterson." "Good morning, dear. Lovely weather we're having." It was 43 degrees and drizzling, but Nathan had learned not to argue with Mrs. Patterson about weather. "Sure is." She counted out her change, 1 quarter at a time. Nathan waited patiently, the familiar rhythm almost meditative. He'd done this thousands of times. Scanned items, made small talk, bagged purchases, thanked people for shopping, over and over, an endless loop that had defined the last 4 years of his life. After Monday, someone else would be doing this. And he'd be in that office, making decisions that affected all of them. The morning shift crawled forward. Nathan scanned groceries, answered questions about sales, helped a confused teenager figure out which kind of milk his mother had texted him to buy. Around 10, Victoria walked in. Not in her usual business attire, but jeans and a sweater, looking almost normal except for the designer handbag that probably cost more than Nathan's car. She grabbed a shopping basket and started browsing. Nathan watched her move through the produce section, testing avocados, examining apples, acting like any other customer. Except Nathan knew better. She was observing, taking mental notes, seeing things most people missed. She ended up at his register 20 minutes later with a basket full of items that looked suspiciously random. Protein bars, bottled water, a magazine about home renovations, dish soap. "Find everything okay?" Nathan asked, falling into the customer service script automatically. "I did, thank you." Victoria handed him a credit card. "How's your last day going?" "Weird. Feels like it should be more significant somehow." Endings rarely are. It's the beginnings that matter. She took her receipt. "I'll see you Monday morning, 7 a.m. sharp." "I'll be there." Victoria left, and Nathan realized she'd just paid $47 for items she probably didn't need, just to have that conversation, just to check on him one more time before everything changed. Lunch came and went. Nathan ate a sandwich in his car, reviewing notes from his training modules on his phone. Employee conflict resolution, inventory shrinkage prevention, health code compliance. His brain felt overstuffed with information that seemed simultaneously crucial and completely useless. When he returned, Jennifer was waiting by the time clock. "Can we talk?" she asked. Nathan glanced around. The break room was empty. "Sure." Jennifer crossed her arms, defensive. "I need to know something. Are you going to change everything?" "What do you mean?" "The schedule, the way we do things, the whole culture of this place." She met his eyes. "Because if you come in Monday trying to be some mini Adrian, throwing your weight around, implementing a bunch of corporate nonsense, people are going to quit. Good people." Nathan absorbed the challenge in her voice. I don't want to be Adrian. Then what do you want to be? He thought about it. Someone who doesn't make you choose between requesting a Saturday off and keeping your job. Someone who pays attention when things don't add up. Someone who treats you like people instead of line items on a spreadsheet. Jennifer studied him for a long moment. Okay, I'll give you a chance, but Nathan? She stepped closer, voice dropping. If you screw us over, if you turn into another corporate clone who forgets where he came from, I will make your life miserable. I've been here 8 years. I know where all the bodies are buried. Noted. She walked away, leaving Nathan with the distinct impression he'd just passed some kind of test he hadn't realized he was taking. The afternoon brought the usual Saturday chaos. Families doing weekly shopping, kids running through aisles while parents tried to corral them, teenagers buying energy drinks and bags of chips. Nathan scanned items on autopilot, his mind elsewhere. Around 3, an older man approached his register with a cart full of groceries. Nathan started scanning: bread, milk, eggs, the basics. Then he noticed the man counting bills in his wallet, lips moving silently, calculating, worried. Nathan had seen that look in the mirror too many times to count. He finished scanning. $73.42. The man's face fell. He looked at his wallet again, then started pulling items from the bags. Sorry, I miscalculated. Let me put some things back. Nathan watched him remove items: a package of chicken breasts, a bag of apples, cheese, protein, actual nutrition being returned because of $8. Sir, hold on. Nathan pulled out his own wallet, withdrew a $10 bill. Let me cover the difference. Oh, I couldn't. Please, I've been where you are. Nathan rang up the transaction, adding his 10 to the man's cash. Sometimes people help, that's all. The man's eyes went bright. Thank you. Really. Thank you. After he left, Nathan stood at his register feeling the weight of what he'd just done. $8. Nothing to someone like Victoria. Everything to someone barely scraping by. That was the difference he wanted to make. Not grand gestures or corporate policies, just small moments where people's dignity stayed intact. Denise had watched the whole exchange. She appeared at his register 5 minutes later. That was good what you did. It was $8. It was kindness. We don't get enough of that here. She handed him a folded piece of paper. I made you something for Monday. Nathan unfolded it. A list, handwritten in Denise's precise script. Employee names, their situations, things to know. Marcus's mom has cancer, needs flexible scheduling. Jennifer's kid has special needs. She sometimes has to leave for school emergencies. Tom's wife died last year. He gets quiet around holidays. Craig's paying for his daughter's college. Always needs extra hours. The information blurred. Denise, you're going to be their boss, but you can't help them if you don't know them. She patted his arm. Use it wisely. Nathan folded the paper carefully and put it in his pocket, understanding he'd just been given something more valuable than any training module. Institutional knowledge, the real story behind the names on the roster. The rest of his shift passed in a strange haze. Every task felt weighted with significance because it was the last time. Last time counting a cash drawer. Last time cleaning the register belt. Last time dealing with a customer who wanted to argue about an expired coupon. At 6, his shift ended. Nathan clocked out, hung up his apron, and stood in the break room staring at his empty locker. 4 years of his life reduced to a metal box that now held nothing. You good? Marcus asked, grabbing his jacket. Yeah, just weird. You're going to be a good manager, man. Better than Adrian. Better than most of the corporate suits who've never worked a register in their lives. Marcus bumped his shoulder. Don't let it change you. I'll try. The store was closing when Nathan finally walked out. He sat in his car for a while, watching employees file out one by one. His employees now. His responsibility. His phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. Dinner tomorrow? Need to go over some things before Monday. Nathan responded yes, then drove home through streets that felt different somehow, like the world had tilted slightly on its axis and he was still finding his balance. Emma was at Mrs. Chen's. Nathan picked her up, listened to her chatter about the movie they'd watched, and made dinner: spaghetti from a box, sauce from a jar. Simple, familiar. After Emma went to bed, Nathan pulled out Denise's list and read it again. Marcus, Jennifer, Tom, Craig. 17 other names, each with their own stories, their own struggles, their own reasons for needing this job to work out. He thought about the man who'd had to put back groceries, about Ruth Palmer's daughter at the Parkside location, about every person who'd been stolen from while managers like Adrian got rich on their backs. This was why it mattered. Not the title, or the salary, or the office. The people. Sunday afternoon, Nathan met Victoria at a small Italian restaurant he'd never been to. Nothing like Marcello's, just a neighborhood place with checkered tablecloths and a menu posted on a chalkboard. She was already there when he arrived, sitting in a corner booth with a laptop open. "Thanks for meeting me," she said as Nathan slid into the seat across from her. "I know you probably wanted to spend today preparing." "I've been preparing for 2 weeks. At this point, I'm either ready or I'm not." Victoria smiled. "Good answer." She closed the laptop. "I wanted to talk through expectations. Not the official corporate stuff. You got that in training. The real expectations." "Okay, your first week is going to be hell. People will test you constantly. They'll push boundaries, question decisions. Watch for any sign that you're going to become another Adrian. Some will do it consciously. Some won't even realize they're doing it." "How do I handle that?" "By being consistent. By following through on what you say. By admitting when you don't know something instead of pretending." Victoria leaned forward. "And by remembering that authority isn't something you demand, it's something you earn, every single day." Nathan nodded, absorbing this. "You're also going to make mistakes," Victoria continued. "Big ones, probably. You'll schedule someone wrong, you'll mishandle a customer complaint, you'll make a call that seems right in the moment and turns out to be completely wrong. That's encouraging." "I'm not trying to encourage you. I'm trying to prepare you." Her voice was firm. "When you screw up, not if when, you own it. You apologize, you fix it, you learn from it. That's how you build trust." Their food arrived. Victoria had ordered some kind of salad. Nathan had gone with lasagna that smelled incredible. "Can I ask you something?" Nathan said between bites. "Always." "Why did you really pick me for this? There have to be 100 people more qualified, people with actual management experience." Victoria set down her fork. "Do you know what I see when I look at most retail managers? People who started idealistic and got ground down by the system. People who stopped seeing employees as human beings and started seeing them as numbers on a productivity chart." She paused. "You haven't been ground down yet. You're still angry about the injustice. You still give a damn. That's rare. What if that changes? What if I become what you're describing? Then I'll fire you," Victoria said it matter-of-factly. "I don't tolerate people who exploit the vulnerable. Not in my company. You know that better than anyone." They finished lunch, and Victoria walked Nathan through a dozen small scenarios he'd likely face in his first month. How to handle an employee calling in sick last minute. What to do when vendors miss deliveries. How to respond to customer complaints about staff. Practical things the training modules had covered in theory, but felt different when discussed as imminent reality. "One more thing," Victoria said as they were leaving. "The other district managers are watching you. Some are rooting for you, some want you to fail so they can say, 'I made a mistake promoting someone without credentials.' Don't worry about them, just do the work." That's easier said than done. Most worthwhile things are. That evening, Nathan went through his closet and laid out his outfit for Monday. The pale blue shirt he'd worn to dinner at Marcello's, pressed and ready. Black slacks he'd bought yesterday with some of the restitution money. Shoes that were newish and didn't have scuffs. Professional, competent. He barely slept that night. Every time he drifted off, his brain conjured new disasters. Employees quitting on his first day. Health inspectors finding violations. Customers rioting over something he'd done wrong. Irrational fears, but they felt visceral at 3 a.m. At 5:30, he gave up and made coffee. Emma found him in the kitchen an hour later, already dressed, reviewing his notes again. "You look nice," she said, pouring herself cereal. "Thanks, sweetheart." "Are you scared?" "Terrified." "You'll be okay." She said it with such confidence that Nathan almost believed her. He dropped Emma at school 15 minutes early, then sat in the parking lot watching kids stream inside. Normal Monday morning for them. For him, everything was different. The drive to Morrison's took 12 minutes. Nathan parked in his usual spot, then realized managers probably parked closer. He moved his car, feeling ridiculous, then moved it back. Small decisions suddenly felt loaded with meaning. At 6:55, he walked through the front doors. The store was quiet, just the opening crew preparing for the day. Nathan headed straight for the office, his office now, and found Victoria already there, sitting at the desk with 2 cups of coffee. "You're early," she said, handing him one. "Couldn't sleep." "Neither could I. My first day running a company. Or my 100th, honestly." Victoria stood. "Ready?" "No." "Perfect. Let's get started." She walked him through the morning procedures. How to review the previous day's sales reports. How to check inventory alerts. How to address the opening staff meeting that happened every Monday at 7:30. Practical things, but having Victoria there made them feel manageable. At 7:20, employees started arriving. Nathan watched through the office window as they clocked in, grabbed their assignments, moved through familiar routines. Some glanced toward the office. Some deliberately avoided looking. 7:30 arrived. Nathan and Victoria walked into the break room where 12 employees had gathered, the morning shift crew. Conversation stopped. Everyone turned to look. Nathan's mouth went dry. He'd prepared remarks, had practiced them in his car, but standing here with all these eyes on him, the words evaporated. Victoria gave him a small nod. "You've got this." "Morning, everyone," Nathan began, his voice steadier than he felt. "I know this is weird. 2 weeks ago, I was scanning groceries next to you. Now I'm standing here pretending to know what I'm doing." A few people smiled. Denise, Marcus, Craig. "I'm not going to lie and say I have all the answers because I don't. I'm going to make mistakes, probably starting today. When I do, I need you to tell me. Not behind my back, not in complaints to corporate. Tell me directly so I can fix it." Jennifer crossed her arms, listening. "Here's what I can promise," Nathan continued. "I won't schedule you for shifts you can't work just to prove a point. I won't ignore you when you say something's wrong. I won't steal from you." He paused. "I know the bar is pretty low right now, but I'm going to try to do better than just clearing it. I'm going to try to make this a place where you actually want to work." The room was quiet. "That's all I've got," Nathan said. "Let's have a good day." Employees dispersed to their stations. Victoria touched his arm. "Well done. I barely said anything. You said enough. The rest you prove through action." She checked her watch. "I have a meeting at corporate in an hour. You going to be okay?" "Guess we'll find out." Victoria left, and Nathan was alone in the office for the first time as manager. He sat at the desk, Adrian's desk, now his, and pulled up the computer system. Sales reports, inventory logs, employee schedules, all of it his responsibility now. The morning passed in controlled chaos. Nathan handled a vendor delivery dispute, approved a return that exceeded normal limits because the customer had a legitimate complaint, and mediated an argument between 2 employees about who was supposed to clean the bathrooms. Around 11, a woman in her 50s approached the customer service counter where Nathan was helping Denise with a system issue. "Are you the new manager?" the woman asked. "I am, Nathan Cole. How can I help you?" "I'm Karen Michaels. I've been shopping here for 8 years. Your cashiers used to be friendly. Now they're rude and slow. I want to know what you're going to do about it." Nathan felt every employee in earshot stop what they were doing to listen. "Can you tell me specifically what happened?" he asked calmly. "The girl at register 2, Karen pointed at Jennifer. "She didn't smile when she rang me up. She looked miserable. That's bad customer service." Nathan glanced at Jennifer, who was scanning items for another customer with professional efficiency. No smile, but not rude either. Just focused on her work. "Ma'am, I appreciate the feedback," Nathan said carefully. "But my employees aren't required to smile on command. They're required to be helpful, efficient, and respectful." "Was Jennifer unhelpful or disrespectful to you?" "Well, no, but then I'm not going to discipline her for not performing happiness." Nathan kept his voice even. "If you have a legitimate service complaint, I'll absolutely address it, but expecting people to smile constantly isn't reasonable." Karen's face flushed. "I want to speak to your supervisor." "You're welcome to call corporate. The number is on our website." Nathan handed her a business card with the store information. "Is there anything else I can help you with today?" Karen snatched the card and stormed out. The store went silent. Then Denise started clapping, slowly at first, then Marcus joined in. Jennifer, Craig, Tom from receiving. Within seconds, half the staff was applauding. Nathan felt his face heat. "Get back to work, all of you." They did, but the energy had shifted. Something had changed. Later, during his lunch break, Nathan found Jennifer in the parking lot sitting in her car. "Hey," he said, tapping on the window. She rolled it down. "If you're going to yell at me for making that lady mad, I'm not. I'm checking if you're okay." Jennifer blinked. "What?" "You looked upset in there. I wanted to make sure you're all right." "I'm fine. Just tired. My kid had a rough night." She paused. "Thanks for having my back with that customer." "You didn't do anything wrong. People who've never worked retail think we're robots designed to make their shopping experience magical. We're not." Jennifer smiled, actually smiled. "Adrian would have written me up." "I'm not Adrian." "No, you're not." The rest of Nathan's first day blurred together. He handled 7 more customer complaints, approved 3 schedule changes, discovered they were critically low on trash bags and had to emergency order more. Small fires constantly putting them out. At 6, as his shift was ending, Nathan stood in the office reviewing the day's sales. They'd hit 97% of target, which Victoria had told him was good for a Monday. He'd made it through. 1 day down. His phone buzzed, a text from Victoria. How'd it go? Nathan thought about Karen Michaels, about Jennifer's smile, about the applause that had made him want to simultaneously hide and cry. "I'm still employed, so that's something." The response came quickly. Day 1. Survival is an accomplishment. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be just as hard. Nathan locked up the office, said goodbye to the closing crew, and walked to his car. His legs ached from being on his feet for 10 hours. His head throbbed from information overload. His entire body felt wrung out. But underneath the exhaustion, something else flickered. Something that felt suspiciously like purpose. He drove home to Emma, who'd made him another card, this one congratulating him on surviving day 1. They had dinner, he helped with homework, and after she went to bed, Nathan collapsed on his pull-out couch. His phone buzzed one more time. Claire Hutton. Heard you stood up to a Karen on day 1. Welcome to management. Nathan smiled at the ceiling, thinking about tomorrow, about the 100 challenges waiting, about all the ways he could still fail spectacularly. But tonight, he'd done okay. That was enough. The second day was worse than the first. Nathan arrived to find the delivery truck had brought the wrong order, paper products instead of produce, and the refrigeration unit in the dairy section was making a grinding noise that suggested imminent catastrophe. By 9 a.m., he'd already dealt with 2 employee call-ins, a spill in aisle 6 that required a full cleanup crew, and a customer who insisted she'd been overcharged for bananas and wanted to see security footage to prove it. "This is normal?" Nathan asked Denise during a rare quiet moment. "This is retail. Normal is chaos with occasional breaks for more chaos." By the end of week 1, Nathan had developed a permanent tension headache and a new appreciation for why Adrian had been such a miserable bastard. The stress was relentless. Except Adrian had dealt with it by taking his frustration out on employees and stealing their wages. Nathan was determined to find a different path, even if it killed him. Week 2 brought new challenges. Marcus requested time off for his mother's chemotherapy appointments, which meant reshuffling the entire schedule. Jennifer's son had an incident at school that required her to leave mid-shift 3 times in 4 days. Tom started showing up late, and when Nathan confronted him about it, the older man broke down crying about his dead wife and how he couldn't sleep anymore. Nathan sat in his office at the end of that conversation, head in his hands, wondering what the training modules had to say about comforting a 60-year-old man having a breakdown in the stockroom. The answer, it turned out, was nothing useful. He called Victoria that night. "I don't know what I'm doing," Nathan said without preamble. "Good evening to you too." Victoria's voice was calm, unsurprised. "What happened?" Nathan told her about Tom, about the schedule chaos, about feeling like he was constantly one disaster away from everything falling apart. "You're doing exactly what you should be doing," Victoria said when he finished. "Which is what? Barely keeping my head above water?" "Being human. Adrian would have written Tom up and told him to get his act together. You listened. You showed empathy. That matters more than you think. It doesn't solve the problem. He's still late. So adjust his schedule. Put him on later shifts until he gets his sleep situation figured out. Ask if he needs resources like grief counseling or medical leave. Solve the problem behind the problem." Nathan scribbled notes. That's not in any of the training modules. Because training modules are written by people who've never worked a real day in their lives. They tell you how things should work in theory. You're learning how they actually work in practice. The conversation steadied Nathan enough to make it through week 2. He adjusted Tom's schedule, set up coverage protocols for Jennifer's emergencies, worked out a rotating system with Marcus so his mother's appointments didn't always fall on the same people. It wasn't perfect. Nothing was perfect. But it was functional, and functional felt like a victory. 3 weeks into his tenure as manager, Nathan received an email from corporate HR. The subject line read, "Employee Satisfaction Survey Results." He opened it with his stomach in knots, expecting disaster. What he found was somehow more complicated. Overall satisfaction had increased by 18% compared to the previous quarter under Adrian's management. Specific improvements noted: management listens to concerns, fair scheduling practices, feel respected as employees. But there were complaints, too. Manager seems overwhelmed, one anonymous response read. Not always clear on expectations, said another. Makes decisions slowly, need more confidence. Nathan stared at the feedback, feeling it like physical blows. They thought he was weak, indecisive, in over his head, because he was. He forwarded the results to Victoria without comment. Her response came within minutes. Constructive criticism is data, not judgment. Use it. Easy for her to say. She'd built a $50 million company. Nathan could barely manage a grocery store without second-guessing every choice. That afternoon, he called a staff meeting. 17 employees crammed into the break room, looking wary. I got the satisfaction survey results, Nathan said, standing at the front. Overall, things are better than they were under Adrian, but some of you think I'm doing a bad job. The room went silent. People shifted uncomfortably. I want to address that directly. I am overwhelmed. I do lack confidence sometimes. I'm learning as I go, which means I make decisions slowly because I'm trying not to screw up. Nathan met their eyes. But here's what I won't do. I won't pretend to have answers I don't have. I won't make decisions just to look decisive. And I won't stop listening to you just because it makes me seem weak. Marcus spoke up. Nobody thinks you're weak, man. The survey says otherwise. The survey is anonymous. People say stuff they don't mean when nobody's watching. Marcus looked around the room. Show of hands. Who here thinks Nathan's doing a bad job? Not a single hand went up. Who thinks he's doing better than Adrian? Every hand shot up. There you go, Marcus said. Stop worrying about what anonymous people think and pay attention to what's happening in front of you. Nathan felt his throat tighten. Thanks. Jennifer raised her hand. Can I say something? Always. You apologized to me last week when you scheduled me on a day I'd requested off. You noticed your mistake before I even said anything. You fixed it, and you apologized. Adrian would have told me to deal with it or find another job. She paused. That's not weakness. That's basic decency. Don't lose that trying to prove you're tough enough for this job. The meeting ended 5 minutes later, but Nathan sat in the break room long after everyone left, thinking about what Jennifer had said. Basic decency. Such a low bar, but apparently revolutionary in retail management. His phone buzzed. Victoria. How'd it go? Better than expected. I think. Good, because I need you at corporate tomorrow. Leadership meeting. Nathan's stomach dropped. He'd successfully avoided corporate headquarters for a month, comfortable in his small store where he knew the rhythms and the people. The idea of walking into a building full of executives terrified him. What time? 9 a.m. Wear the blue shirt. And Nathan, don't try to be someone you're not. It never works. The next morning, Nathan dropped Emma at school early and made the 40-minute drive to corporate headquarters, a gleaming glass building in the business district that looked like it had been designed to intimidate people exactly like him. He parked in visitor parking, checked his reflection in the car window, and walked inside. The lobby was all marble and recessed lighting. A receptionist directed him to the 12th floor, where Victoria's assistant met him and led him to a conference room already filled with people. David Park was there. The Riverside manager Nathan had met at dinner, Claire Hutton. 6 other district managers he vaguely recognized. And at the head of the table, Victoria, flanked by 2 executives in expensive suits. Nathan, glad you could make it. Victoria gestured to an empty chair. Everyone, this is Nathan Cole, Morrison's Family Market. 4 weeks in and already implementing changes that are showing results. Nathan sat, feeling everyone's eyes on him. The meeting started with sales reports. Each manager presented their numbers, discussed challenges, proposed solutions. When Nathan's turn came, he pulled up his notes on his phone. He'd forgotten there'd be presentations and stumbled through an update on his store's performance. We're up 12% in customer satisfaction and 9% in sales compared to this time last year, Nathan said, reading directly from his notes. Employee retention is holding steady. No major incidents. What changes did you implement to achieve those numbers? This from one of the executives, a man in his 50s with silver hair and an expression that suggested he'd already decided Nathan was wasting his time. Mostly just treating people like humans, Nathan said honestly. Fair scheduling, listening to concerns, not stealing from them. A few people smiled. The executive did not. Can you be more specific? What policies changed? Nathan thought about it. I stopped using the schedule as punishment. If someone requests time off and has a legitimate reason, I approve it and figure out coverage. If someone's struggling, sick kid, family emergency, whatever, I work with them instead of against them. And I'm on the floor more, so I see problems before they become disasters. That's basic management, the executive said dismissively. Yeah, well, my predecessor didn't do any of it. So for us, it's revolutionary. The room went quiet. Victoria's expression was carefully neutral, but Nathan thought he saw approval in her eyes. Claire jumped in. Nathan's dealing with the aftermath of significant trauma at his location. The fact that he's showing positive metrics at all is impressive. The meeting moved on. Nathan sat back, feeling like he'd either passed or failed spectacularly, and wasn't sure which. Afterward, Victoria caught him in the hallway. Walk with me. They took the elevator down to the building's cafe, got coffee, and sat in a corner booth away from other employees. That executive, Harrison, thinks I made a mistake promoting you, Victoria said without preamble. He's probably right. He's definitely wrong. But he represents a certain mindset, the idea that management is about control and metrics, not people. She sipped her coffee. You challenged that today. I didn't mean to challenge anything. I just answered his question. I know. That's what made it effective. Victoria leaned forward. Harrison came up through traditional retail management. Regional manager at 25, VP at 32. He's good at his job, but he's never worked a register, never struggled to pay rent, never had to choose between fixing his car and buying groceries. He thinks your approach is soft because he doesn't understand what you understand. Which is? That people work harder for someone who treats them with dignity than someone who threatens them with consequences. Nathan absorbed this. What does Harrison want you to do? Replace you with someone more experienced, someone who manages by the book. Victoria's voice was flat. I told him no. Your metrics speak for themselves, but Nathan, you need to understand something. Every time you succeed, you're proving that empathy-based management works, and that threatens people whose entire careers are built on the opposite approach. So I'm going to keep getting pushback, constantly, from executives like Harrison, from other managers who think you got promoted too fast, from employees who test your boundaries. She met his eyes. Can you handle that? Nathan thought about the last month, the stress, the exhaustion, the constant feeling of inadequacy. Then he thought about Marcus's mother getting to her chemotherapy appointments, about Jennifer not having to choose between her son and her job, about Tom's late shifts and Craig's cleared name. Yeah, he said, I can handle it. Good, because I'm about to make it harder. Victoria pulled out her tablet, opened a file, and slid it across to Nathan. I'm implementing a new management training program across all locations. It's based on what you've been doing, employee-centered practices, trauma-informed leadership, equitable scheduling. You're going to help design it. Nathan stared at the document. I don't know how to design a training program. You know how to treat people fairly. That's the foundation. Everything else, we build together. Victoria's expression was serious. This company failed its employees. I failed them by not catching it sooner. We can throw money at the problem, implement oversight, fire the bad actors. But unless we change the culture fundamentally, it'll happen again. And you think I can help with that? I think you're living proof it's possible. 4 weeks ago, your employees were scared and exploited. Now they're engaged and productive. That didn't happen by accident. It happened because you gave a damn and acted on it. Nathan read through the document, pages of proposals, frameworks, accountability measures. His head spun. This is way beyond managing a store. It is, which is why you won't do it alone. I'm assigning you a team. Claire will handle policy development, David's on implementation logistics, and I'm bringing in an organizational psychologist to help with the trauma-informed components. Victoria paused. But I need you as the heart of it, the person who reminds us why it matters. Nathan wanted to say no, wanted to retreat to his small store where he understood the scope of his responsibilities. But he thought about Ruth Palmer's daughter, about the 17 employees at Morrison's and the hundreds across other locations who'd been stolen from. Okay, he said. I'll do it. Over the next 3 months, Nathan split his time between managing Morrison's and developing the training program. It was brutal. 12-hour days became normal. Emma started asking if he had a new job because he was never home. Mrs. Chen became a permanent fixture, watching Emma more nights than Nathan did. But slowly, the program took shape. Claire translated Nathan's instincts into actionable policies. David created implementation timelines. The psychologist, Dr. Sarah Winters, brought research and frameworks that gave structure to what Nathan had been doing intuitively. They piloted the program at 3 stores, including Morrison's. Employee satisfaction metrics jumped, turnover decreased, sales improved. Harrison remained skeptical, but even he couldn't argue with results. 6 months after Nathan had accepted the manager position, Victoria called him into her office at corporate. "How are you holding up?" she asked. Nathan collapsed into a chair. Exhausted, overwhelmed. Emma's science fair is next week and I haven't helped her with her project. I'm a terrible father. You're a father who's working to make the world better for her. That's not terrible, that's sacrificial. Victoria handed him a folder. But maybe this will help. Nathan opened it. A job description. Director of Employee Experience, Hale Enterprises. Salary, $85,000 annually, plus benefits. What is this? A promotion. The training program is working. I want to roll it out company-wide, and I need someone to oversee implementation across all 47 locations. Victoria watched his reaction. That someone is you. I've been a manager for 6 months, and in those 6 months, you've done more to change this company's culture than most executives do in their entire careers. She leaned back. I'm not asking you to stop being who you are, Nathan. I'm asking you to scale it. Help me build a company where what happened to you and your employees never happens again. Nathan thought about it, about Emma's science fair, about the long hours, about the exhaustion that had become his constant companion. Then he thought about Ruth Palmer, about Denise's envelope, about every person still working retail jobs under managers who saw them as disposable. I want 3 conditions, Nathan said. Name them. 1, I still manage Morrison's directly. I'm not abandoning my team. Done. You'll need an assistant manager to handle day-to-day, but you maintain oversight. 2, Emma gets priority. If she has a school event, or she's sick, or she needs me, that comes first, always. Done. We'll build your schedule around her needs. 3, any manager who implements this program and fails to follow through gets removed. No second chances. If they're exploiting people while pretending to care, they're gone. Victoria extended her hand. Done. All 3 conditions, in writing, in your contract. They shook on it. Nathan started his new role 2 weeks later. He promoted Jennifer to assistant manager at Morrison's. She'd earned it, and she understood the culture he'd built. He hired help for Emma, a college student who needed the money and didn't mind that some weeks were unpredictable. The rollout wasn't smooth. Some managers embraced the new approach. Others resisted, clinging to old ways of controlling through fear. Nathan worked with the willing ones and documented the resistant ones until there was enough evidence to remove them. It took a year, but slowly, the culture shifted. Employee satisfaction scores rose across the company. Turnover dropped by 30%. Sales increased as engaged employees provided better customer service. Harrison eventually left for another company, unable to adapt to the new philosophy. His replacement was a woman named Angela Torres, who'd worked her way up from cashier to regional manager and understood exactly what Nathan was trying to build. 2 years after Nathan had confronted Victoria in the freezer aisle, he stood at the front of a room full of new managers, teaching them the program he'd helped create. Management isn't about control, he told them. It's about creating conditions where people can succeed. That means listening more than talking. It means admitting when you're wrong. It means treating a single-parent schedule request with the same importance you'd give a customer complaint. A hand went up. Young guy, maybe 26, cocky expression. What if employees take advantage? If you're too soft, they'll walk all over you. Nathan recognized the attitude. He'd seen it in Harrison, in Adrian, in every manager who'd spent their career mistaking cruelty for strength. In my experience, people don't take advantage when you treat them fairly. They take advantage when the system already treats them unfairly and they're just trying to survive. Nathan leaned against the desk. If you think basic decency is being soft, this probably isn't the right company for you. The room went quiet. The young manager looked chastened. After the training session, Nathan checked his phone. 3 messages from Emma's school about her science fair tonight, 1 from Jennifer updating him on Morrison's inventory situation, and 1 from Victoria. How'd the training go? Same as always. Some get it, some don't. The ones who get it will change lives. That's enough. Nathan smiled, pocketed his phone, and headed out. He had a science fair to attend. Emma's project was about plant growth and whether talking to plants made them grow faster. She'd tested it methodically, documented everything, created charts. It wasn't going to win any prizes. The kid next to her had built a working robot, but Emma was proud of it, and that was what mattered. "You came," she said when she spotted him in the crowd. "Of course I came." Nathan hugged her. "Wouldn't miss it. Even though work is really busy, you're more important than work always." They walked through the fair together, Emma explaining her methodology, Nathan asking questions and genuinely listening. Afterward, they got ice cream and sat in the park watching the sunset. "Dad?" Emma asked, chocolate ice cream on her chin. "Yeah, sweetheart." "Are you happy?" The question surprised him. "What makes you ask that?" "You work a lot, but you don't look tired the way you used to. You look different." Nathan thought about it. 2 years ago, he'd been barely surviving, scanning groceries, going home exhausted, watching his bank account drain despite working full-time. Now he made enough money that Emma could take dance classes without him calculating costs. He had a job that mattered, work that felt meaningful. "Yeah," he said honestly, "I'm happy." "Good. You deserve it." Nathan pulled her close, thinking about how much wisdom existed in a 9-year-old who'd watched her father struggle and somehow still believed good things were possible. The following week, Victoria asked Nathan to accompany her to Morrison's family market. They drove together, Victoria catching him up on corporate developments, Nathan half listening while mentally running through his schedule. When they pulled into the parking lot, Nathan immediately noticed something different. The exterior had been repainted, the landscaping updated. It looked cared for in a way it hadn't when Adrian ran it. Inside, the changes were even more obvious. Employees greeted customers with genuine smiles. The shelves were fully stocked. The store felt alive instead of like a place people endured. Jennifer spotted them and walked over. "Boss? And boss's boss? What brings you to our humble store?" "Just checking in," Victoria said. "How are things?" "Good. Really good, actually. We hit our sales targets 3 months running. Employee satisfaction scores are the highest in the district." Jennifer grinned at Nathan. "Turns out, when you treat people like humans, they don't hate their jobs." Revolutionary. They walked through the store together. Victoria observed, asked questions, took notes. Nathan watched his former colleagues, his current team, move through their work with competence and something that looked like contentment. Marcus was training a new hire in produce, patient and thorough. Tom was at receiving, on time and focused. Craig was at customer service, handling a return with practiced ease. Denise was at the registers, same as always, steady as a rock. "You built something good here," Victoria said quietly. "We built it," Nathan corrected. "I just stopped treating them like they were disposable." They ended up in Nathan's office, Jennifer's office now, technically, though Nathan still thought of it as his. Victoria sat at the desk, looked around at the changes Jennifer had made. Photos of her son on the wall, a plant in the corner, small touches that made it feel human. "Do you miss it?" Victoria asked. "Being here full-time?" "Sometimes. The new job is important, but this was personal, you know? These specific people, this specific place." "You changed their lives, Nathan. Every person in this store is better off because you refused to accept that exploitation was just how things worked." Nathan thought about that. About the version of himself who'd stood at register 3, hand shaking, reading a text about Emma's unpaid lunch account, that Nathan had felt powerless, trapped, invisible. This Nathan had power, had purpose, had changed an entire company's approach to management because he'd refused to stay silent. "Can I tell you something?" Victoria said. "When I first walked into this store 2 years ago, I was looking for problems to fix. What I found was you, someone who'd survived the worst this industry had to offer and still showed up every day with dignity and tact. That's rare. I didn't do anything special. You did the hardest thing. You kept being human in a system designed to make you disposable. Then when given the chance, you chose to make sure nobody else had to survive the same way." Victoria stood. "That's not just special, Nathan. That's revolutionary." They left the store together. Nathan paused in the parking lot, looking back at the building that had been his whole world for 4 years, where he'd been exploited and then, impossibly, given the chance to fix it. "Thank you," he said to Victoria, "for seeing something in me I didn't see in myself. I didn't see anything that wasn't already there. I just gave you the opportunity to show it." She unlocked her car. "The rest was all you." That evening, Nathan sat with Emma at their kitchen table. A new table, bigger and sturdier than the old one, bought with money he'd earned through work that mattered. Emma was working on homework. Nathan was reviewing training materials for next week's session. His phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Hey man, just wanted to say thanks. My mom finished chemo today. She's going to be okay. I couldn't have been there for her appointments without the flexible schedule. So yeah, thanks." Nathan stared at the message, feeling the weight of what it meant. When he'd been promoted, he'd thought success would be measured in sales numbers or employee metrics. He'd been wrong. Success was Marcus's mom surviving cancer because her son could be there for her treatments. Success was Jennifer's son thriving because his mom didn't have to choose between his needs and her job. Success was Tom working through his grief without losing everything. Success was measured in lives changed, one small decision at a time. "Dad?" Emma looked up from her homework. "You're smiling. What happened?" "Just work stuff. Good work stuff." "The kind where you help people?" "Yeah, the kind where I help people." Emma nodded, satisfied, and returned to her math problems. Nathan watched her for a moment, thinking about the future she'd have. Not easy. Nothing worth having ever was, but possible in a way it hadn't been 2 years ago. He thought about the system that had tried to grind him down, the managers who'd seen him as disposable, the company that had allowed theft to flourish because oversight was expensive and employees were cheap. And he thought about Victoria, who'd had every reason to bury the problem quietly, but had chosen transparency instead, who'd promoted a cashier with no credentials because she valued character over credentials. Most of all, Nathan thought about the 17 employees at Morrison's Family Market who'd been stolen from and stayed silent because speaking up felt impossible. Who'd needed someone to take the risk for them? He'd been that someone. Not because he was brave or special, but because the alternative, staying silent, accepting exploitation as normal, had become impossible to live with. That was the lesson, Nathan realized. Not that one person could change everything, but that one person refusing to accept injustice could start a cascade. His decision to speak up had led to Adrian's removal. Adrian's removal had revealed a systemic problem. The systemic problem had forced cultural change. Cultural change had improved thousands of lives across 47 stores. One person, one decision, one moment of choosing to stand up instead of staying down. Years later, when new managers asked Nathan how to lead effectively, he'd tell them the same thing every time. It wasn't about being the smartest person in the room or the most experienced or the most confident. It was about being the person who gave a damn when it was easier not to. It was about remembering what it felt like to be powerless and using whatever power you gained to make sure other people didn't have to feel that way. It was about basic human decency in a world that treated decency like a luxury instead of a baseline. And it was about understanding that leadership wasn't a destination you arrived at, but a practice you committed to every single day. Some days you'd succeed, some days you'd fail. The measure wasn't perfection, it was persistence. Nathan looked at Emma, working diligently on her homework, safe and cared for in a home that was finally stable. He thought about the years ahead, the challenges waiting, the inevitable struggles that came with any life worth living. But tonight, sitting at his kitchen table with his daughter beside him and work that mattered waiting for tomorrow, Nathan Cole felt something he hadn't felt in years. He felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. And that was enough.